That was Anita Dumar. She is Colored People's Time debuted as a weekly show funded by the Junior League of Detroit, Wayne State University, and New Detroit. Gilbert Maddox and Tony Brown led the original production of the show. The idea was black programming by and for African Americans. My next guests have been called upon many times on the show to offer their viewpoint. Please welcome former Detroit Mayor Dave Bing. And next to him is financial journalist Kelvin Boston. All right, I'm going to start off by embarrassing them just a little bit. We have some video of their many appearances on the show. Let's start with Dave Bing.
Live from the studios of WTVS, Detroit Black Journal proudly continues 16 award-winning years of history, news, and current affairs from a black perspective.
You found a corporation that needed to supply for others. Now, many blacks do not necessarily do that, or for some time they did not. They had traditional black businesses. Is it important that we move past that and start to grow into other areas? Is that why you picked steel, perhaps?
I think so, without a doubt, because in steel, it was something that obviously is non-traditional vis-a-vis what most blacks may venture into in terms of business. And I saw an opportunity here in this city where it was a major, major business. It's a support system to the big automotive industry, and I saw an opportunity to get involved into something that could accrue major dollars for me, which would help me leverage myself to diversify into some other areas.
Okay, next, yeah, go ahead. Next, let's take a look at Kelvin Boston.
Blacks spend 84.4% of their total living expenses as compared with 82.9% of whites or for whites. Why do blacks spend so much more money than they make?
Well, a lot of time we're not really looking at how to save. We're not looking at how to get the best price for our best value for our investments. For instance, I remember a couple of years ago, a lot of people were buying Mercedes-Benz, and African Americans were buying them because they thought it was status conscious. White Americans were buying because they were good automobiles, and they knew if they had a Mercedes-Benz, then that car would last for 10 years.
Okay, you notice in those clips, their hair is longer than it is now. And if you saw clips of me from then, my hair would be shorter than it is now. So, welcome to the show, both of you. Thank you. Thanks for being here. So, Mr. Mayor, you've got this incredible narrative across many decades in this community that takes you from sports, a Hall of Fame career with the Detroit Pistons, to the business world, then to the world of politics. And this show was there for almost all of it. And you appeared on the show several times. Can you talk about that sort of evolution in this community and sort of the role that spaces like American Black Journal afforded people like you?
Well, I think the sports career was one that's short-lived. And I enjoyed it, but at the same token, you really didn't help people from a sports standpoint. I think the greatest thing that I did was starting my own business and then hiring over 1,300 people. And 80% of those people were Detroiters, which means they were black.
Right.
And so I was told early on that you can't be successful with a business in Detroit because Detroit does not have the wherewithal to give you the kind of people that's going to help you grow your business. And that's a fallacy. Without those people, I never would have grown to the success level that I had. You know, I never wanted to be, and don't think I was a politician. But I was called at a time when I think the city needed a change, and I stepped up to the table, and it was the most tumultuous 4.5 years of my life. But as I look back on it, and people ask me, if you had to make that decision again, would you do it? And my answer is yes, because I think our city was on the cusp of either failing or trying to make a correction. And I think we made a correction. In those 4.5 years, one of the things that I think I enjoyed most was getting to know so many people in city government, because they were lambasted for not being smart, for being lazy, not working hard, and taking our city down the tubes. And that really wasn't the case. There was a lot of good people, they worked hard, and I made a lot of friendships that are lasting today. And I think a lot of what's going on today started in that administration. And I don't take credit for that. I look at the people who were there that took major hits, major pay cuts in their benefits. And without them doing that, this city would not be where it is today.
Yeah, we would be in a lot of trouble. So when you start the business and that eventually becomes Bing Steel, which I think when I was a kid in the 70s and 80s, that was such a familiar name. You know, as I think it was Ed who was talking to you on the program said, that's just not the kind of thing African Americans were doing. Where did you find support? Where did you find sort of that reinforcing strength to do that and know that, okay, well, maybe this is not what everyone else is doing, but I think this will work?
Well, there were no African Americans in steel. And in Detroit, as the automotive capital of the world at that time, the primary product into a vehicle is steel. And I said, you know, I went and I got into a company where I trained for a couple of years, learned the business, and said, I want to do this myself. I always wanted to own my own business, and I think that's something that we as a community need to strive for, because that's the ultimate, in my opinion, of success. And it's a great avenue to maximize your earning capacity. And then you also can hire who you want to hire and give them opportunities. And that's what happened with me. As I said, 80% of my employees were African American. And it was generational because I was in the business for 29 years. And so I had kids of parents that worked for me also, and we were a family. And you know, the automotive industry is very difficult, but in the car companies, GM, Ford, and Chrysler at that time were promoting minority suppliers. But most of the suppliers stayed away from the really hard stuff. You know, they did maybe transportation, or they did maybe some IT, they did different things. I wanted to be in the mix of making a product that goes into the vehicle. And so from a steel perspective, we were in raw steel, then we got into stampings where you're actually making parts for the vehicles. Then I did a joint venture with Lear Corporation where we started producing seats and exterior mirrors. So we were doing a lot of different things in the automotive industry that was kind of unheard of at that time. And we grew a company from a startup with 4 people to a company that got about 1,300 people and $2 million in sales my first year. And I ended up over 300 million, you know, by the end of my 29 years. And then it was time to move on and try to enjoy myself. Then I made the mistake when they said, well, we want you to be mayor.
No, you said you would do it again.
And I would. But that's another story.
Yeah.
And I tell you, I learned more about the city of Detroit in that 4.5 years. And I've been here 53 years. I'm not a native Detroiter, wasn't born here, born in Washington, D.C., another great city. But all my adult life, I've been here. So I've made a lot of friends, and there are a lot of people that helped me along the way. So everything that I am today, I owe Detroit a great deal for my success.
Yeah, go ahead. Kelvin, in that clip, one of the things that you're getting at is the importance of financial literacy, right? The idea of understanding not just how to earn money, but how to spend it wisely and how to make it work for you. It strikes me that I think that clip is from the 90s. Now we're in the teens of the next century. We could maybe have a show tomorrow talking about some of those same things.
Yeah, I think the clip is still relevant today because not only African Americans, but all Americans today need to understand how to manage their resources more effectively. The reality is that right now, too many of us, again, both white and black, are buying things sometimes we can't afford, to do things we don't need to do to impress people that we don't even like. It's important. It's important, especially right now when we think that after 10 years our economy is about to slow down. And if you understand, especially in Detroit, we have many ups and downs, that when white America has a cold, black America has a flu, and sometimes we die from the flu. And so right now it's important for us, while we have a little bit of gain and while Detroit is on its way back up, that we understand now is the time for us to buy our homes, to save more, to have jobs that are related to the digital economy, and understand that, as someone once said, that at the bottom of business, at the bottom of politics, even at the bottom of religion, there must be economic freedom.
And so you have worked in a number of different places over several decades. I wonder what you make of progress on that front. The idea of independence and economic freedom. Are we doing better with that?
Well, in some ways we're doing better, but unfortunately for black Americans, we're going backwards. In fact, there's one study that says that even though our collective assets and ability to earn has gone up, then in about 20 years, black America might have a zero net worth.
Wow.
So we're going backwards. And that's because we, again, are buying things, but we're not buying things that appreciate, and we're not buying things that make us money over the long term. But I think most important to me is when I look back at that clip and realize where I have come. Back then, when we talked about black economic empowerment, we basically focused on wealth building. Today, I can't talk about black economic empowerment or empowering anybody financially without talking about the relationship between health and wealth. There's a direct relationship.
Sure.
What's keeping most of us from being financially secure is the fact that our health is so poor that we're dying young. And we don't have the opportunity to overcome that so that we can save more. I can't talk to black people or anybody about becoming successful without mentioning that they need to be a part of the digital economy. If you're still dealing with the service economy, trying to deal with people one-on-one, then you're not connected to the digital economy. Therefore, you will be out of work and out of business very, very soon. I have to talk about the fact that every black family must own a business today. Somebody in that family, brother, mother, sister, somebody has to own a business. Then we have to talk about education, and most important, we have to talk about motivation. Unfortunately, our good friend, Reverend Holly, couldn't be here with us tonight, but I must say on his behalf, we have to understand where our abundance comes from, where our prosperity comes from, because you can be up at any moment and then be down. And when those things happen, you need something that you can hold on to that's bigger than you and better than you and stronger than you, and that's wherever your faith comes from. Yeah. And I believe that God wants us to have abundance. He wants us to have it right now. So, but that's where I think we are. This is a great opportunity. One last thing. I know that Detroit is going through what some people call gentrification, but it's beyond gentrification. See, when Whole Foods moves into your neighborhood, gentrification is over. They're not the first.
It's already happened.
They're the last to come. But there is something that's going on called rapid urbanization that's happening all over America. And basically it means that most American cities are going to double in size the next 5 to 10 years. And that's what's happening in Detroit. So Baltimore will become the size of Washington, D.C. Detroit will become the size of New York. New York will double in size. So what does that mean? That means that there's so much opportunity right now that we need to be hopeful about, because property values are going to go up. There are going to be more jobs in Detroit and more business opportunities, but only if we're prepared to take advantage of them. And that's where we are right now. And one last thing, I think for Black America, the thing that we have going for us most is that America as a society is on the wrong side of the immigration question. The fact is that our population is getting older.
Right.
So that means there could be more jobs and opportunities. We got about 10 years for black folks to understand that. That any job in America you want is up. You can have that job in about 10 years. But you got to prepare for it.
But you have to be prepared
I'm
for
sorry,
it. Yeah, no, it's okay. All right.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, absolutely. Wonderfully. Okay, Mayor Dave Bing, Kelvin Boston, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for all you've
Thank
done
you.
for the program over the years.
Thank you.
Thank you.